Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about what ICAI campus placements are all about and how you can make the most of it to get yourself a job. So, first of all, what is ICAI campus? So, it is basically a recruitment drive organized by ICAI after each attempt to help newly qualified chartered accountants get their first jobs. So, in this drive, a lot of companies come to the campus and hold interviews for various profiles. Then the next question is, when is ICAI campus held? So the campus placements happen after each attempt and the announcement comes out on the CMIB portal, the link to which is already mentioned in the slide. So an announcement is made usually a few days before the result and the registration begins immediately or like few days after the result. So be very active on this portal, especially after your result. For example, in our attempt, that is the December 21 attempt, result came out on 10th February and the ICAI campus registration started from 15 to 21st February. So as you can see, this is a very small window, so you have to be very, very active on the portal. Then for the May 22 students who have given their attempt in May 22, the ICAI campus announcement is already out. You can also refer to the notification on the CMIB website. And for this attempt, the registration will be starting from 25th and will close on 30th July. And the interview schedule is also mentioned in this slide for your reference. Then coming to the ICAI campus process. So this is what the placement process looks like. So first is the registration, which I'll discuss in detail in the next slide. And then comes the first round of shortlisting. So upon filling the registration form, having all your details, the company shortlist you whether they want to take your interview or not. So they have various criterias like the number of attempts you took, what is the percentage that you scored, what are the extracurricular activities you have participated in, your achievements, where you did your articleship from, how is your articleship experience like. Then on the basis of your C, how mobile are you, like how much you can travel, and those kinds of things. Then the company that shortlisted you will appear on your CMIB portal, and you have to give consent to the companies for whom you want to sit for the interviews. Here, I would also recommend that they usually have a 1 or 2 days window for you to give consent. So wait till the last day because in my case also few companies they came a bit late or were late with their process. And after I gave consent for 4 companies, then those companies start appearing on my page. So wait till the end of the day before actually giving the consent. Then comes the second round of shortlisting. So what happens is once the company shortlists you and you give consent, so a lot of the companies like who hope that you'd give consent to them but you didn't, then they'll go on and shortlist other candidates for the profile. So the second round of shortlisting is also for the same companies only. So it is possible that few of the companies that you could not get in the first round, you might get in the second round because some of the students not go for the or give consent to that particular company. So that is the second round of shortlisting, which starts after you have given the after the first round of consent, and then the second round of consent. So in total, including the first round and the second round of consent, you can select only 4 companies for which you want to sit for the interviews. So you have to be very mindful because in total, including both first round of consent and second round of consent, you can select only 4 companies. So it is a bit of a gamble here because you don't know what all companies will shortlist you in the second round. So that is something that you have to consider on the basis of what all companies you got in your first round. Are they good enough? Are you happy going for them? So what usually happens is, so in ICI campus, the companies come day wise. So there's day one, day two, day three, and so on. So the companies which usually come on day one are usually have a higher CTC than they and then keeps on decreasing as the day go on. So if you got all, let's say, day one companies in your first round of consent only, then I would say that, don't go for the gamble and select 4 companies then and there only. However, if you did not get, much of such companies or you're not happy with the shortlisting, then most of the students, what they do is they select 3 companies in first round and they leave one option for the second round just in case. Then comes the written test or the psychometric test. So some it differs from company to company. It is totally up to the company whether they want to take a test or not. So most of the companies do not take a test, but some do in order to filter out students so that they don't have to take interviews for a lot of students. So these are the kind of tests for which you don't have to prepare much. It is usually on the basis of it is usually the quantitative questions and the qualitative questions, like English and aptitude questions, logical ability driven questions, and then a few questions would be your subject related questions, which are not quite very tough. So you can easily crack them, and there's nothing moreover which you can practice here. And then comes the interviews. So I'll be making a separate video on how to prepare for these interviews, but here I just want to mention, so what the interview process looks like is all the interviews of all the four companies that you have selected. So they'll be held as per the day, like as per the schedule when the companies will be coming, on which day they'll be coming. So I chose all the companies from first day only. So I had all my interviews on the first day. However, if a student selected, let's say, two companies from first day, one from second, and one from third day, then he or she will have the interviews on 3 days. So then a roster usually comes out. So roster is basically a mail, we can say, that ICAI rolls out a day before your interview, a day or so before your interview, telling you about your schedule of the interview, like what time, what is the link that you have to join in case of virtual interviews and everything. And yeah, so there's this rule that applies here, that when you give consent for one company, and here what by consent what we mean is, let's say your interview is was held for one party for like a company, and you got shortlisted, you got selected, you got a call from the company that you are selected. Please give your consent that you want to join our company. So the moment you give your consent to that particular company, you cannot sit for any other interviews, like any of the other three interviews if you're left with which you selected initially, you cannot sit for them. It is a very luck based thing as to which company will come first, and whether if you get selected, then either you have to drop that company, or if you select that, like if you tell them that you want to join, then you cannot sit for any other companies. Yeah, so another thing that I want to mention here is that some of the companies might have an additional round in addition to the interview round, 1 or 2 days prior to the interview, usually, in order to filter out students, because it is not possible for them to take interview of all the students in a single day, right? So they need to filter out students. So they may have process like they may conduct a group discussion. So in that, usually very common topics are asked because they're not that much concerned about how much knowledge do you have about a particular topic, but rather how you present yourself, how you communicate, and how much do you take the lead in that particular discussion, how much do you give a chance to the other team members and things like that. That is what they want to evaluate. So in virtual GD also, like they may also give you 2-3 minutes to actually go through the internet so that you have a good idea about the topic, and that is not something that is keeping you from participating well in the discussion. Then another thing that that was done by one of the companies I gave the interview for was an AI based interview 1 day prior to their final interviews. So in that, I was shown a question on the computer screen and for 10 seconds or something like that, and then immediately a recording started, and I had to answer that questions for 2 minutes. So most of the questions were either HR based questions or psychological questions. For example, a tough situation that you faced at work, and how did you deal with it? Something that demoralizes you, or yeah, so things like that basically only. Something again that you don't have to prepare for. And then the third thing that was done, that I was a part of also. So one of the companies rolled out a form 2-3 days prior to their interview, and in that form we had to fill in all our educational qualifications, achievements, and other things that were also part of our CV. And then there were questions about our articleship, where did we do our articleship, and what did we actually do there. And then some psychological questions like for example, a suggestion you made which was accepted, and a suggestion which was not accepted, then why it was not accepted, and what did you do, how did you deal with it. And then some questions relating to that company as to why do you want to join our company, and how does your goals align to our vision and mission. So some of the questions like that were asked in that form. So yeah, different companies might have a different process, but usually, like most of the companies do have a process in order to filter out students if they have rolled out a huge shortlist of students. So then they may conduct such a thing. Then coming back to the registration process, here are some of the points that I really want to discuss. So these are the details that are asked for in your profile tabs on this when you'll make a CMIB portal. When you log in with your student details, then you'll have to fill the profile tab there. So these are the details that are asked for. First is the personal details, which are very basic. and then your educational qualification, like what all did you do? Did you do any graduation? Where did you do a schooling from? What are the marks that you obtained? And about your inter, like the CA inter and CA final marks, or any ranks that you may have got. Then also one point I would want to mention here is that GMCS is compulsory for you to be eligible to sit for campus placements, because they specifically ask for the GMCS certificate number in this form. Then work experience tab, here they ask you if you have any work experience. So you have to mention your articleship details, where you did your articleship from, in what domain did you do your articleship, what are the clients. So let's say I did my articleship in audit. So what are the clients that I audited, and what are the areas that I handled. So these are the questions that you have to fill really, really nicely and quite in depth, because they will be evaluated in the company shortlisting you. Then the hobbies and achievements is again very important, because companies want a candidate who goes beyond books and is not just restricted to their books. So it is a very important segment. So please focus on this. Even if you don't have anything to write, don't leave it empty and find something out, find something to write here. Then moving to job preference. So in job preference, they ask questions usually like, what is your salary expectation? So here, give the minimum expectation. So it starts from, I guess, 6 lakhs or something like that. So it is mentioned there in the drop down list. So just mention the least amount, because that amount does not mean that you'll be offered that amount by the company. The company will still offer you whatever whatever the package they're offering to all the other students. It is pretty standard. But this will ensure that more and more companies shortlist you. So if companies, some company have a 6 lakh CTC, while you mentioned 10 lakh, then that company will not shortlist you, right? So our objective here in the registration process is to have more and more companies shortlist us. So mention the least possible salary expectation. Then in mobility, they ask whether you're open to travel in India, outside India, what are the countries you're willing to travel. So there also mention all the companies, even if you're not very willing right now, but don't restrict your chances of getting shortlisted. Then venue. In venue, again, you have to mention which campus you are applying for. So we have, for example, Delhi campus, Mumbai campus, Bangalore campus. So we had virtual campus placement. So venue is basically not a very big restriction in our case. We could select any of the cities and give the interviews virtually. So even a Delhi student could fill in Mumbai campus and sit for the interviews through virtual mode. But if there is a physical recruitment drive happening, then you'll have to travel there for the interviews and everything. So be very mindful of the fact whether your recruitment drive is virtual or physical. Then mock interviews. Very important. So this is something which has recently been introduced by ICI, and it is an amazing initiative, to be very honest. I've sit for quite a few interviews during my placements and everything that period. So this is one of the interviews which was the toughest to crack, and it give you such a good practice of interviews. The level of questions that they ask, both, so they have someone hired to ask you HR questions, and there is a person sitting from ICI itself asking you technical questions, and they just grill you like anything. They have a very what do you say, a very pressure test kind of an interview, to see how you deal with it, and then they give you tips that what you can improve and everything. So please, please, please do give the mock interviews. It is very important, and it is a very, very effective interview and a very nice initiative. Then coming to small campus, what is this small campus all about? So ICA usually in ICA campus placement, there are a lot of cities where these interviews and the companies come to. So, and majority of these centers are like the metropolitan cities or the big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and so this is called like the normal, like the main campus. And then after all the first rounds and second round and the interview process is done, then this small campus occurs, which companies usually come to the smaller centers. For example, Noida, and all these centers, which are relatively smaller cities. Does this mean that the companies coming to this campus are also small companies and they don't offer much CTC? No, this is not the case. And it is just a matter of chance and luck, then which company will be coming to which center. So it is a bit of a gamble there. So a student has to select a big center and then a small center. Both you have to select. But in case you get shortlisted by a company in the big, like the main campus, and you give your consent also, then in that case you automatically become ineligible for small campus. Also, one more thing that I would want to mention here. So in most of the cases, the center that you select, it is not very necessary that the job that you'll get will also be in that city only. For example, let's say I opted for the Delhi campus and I got placed also. So the job that I got was based out of Mumbai. So it is not necessary, although more often than not, it is usually the case, that the company that is coming to a particular center offers the job from that city only, but it is not necessary. So thank you so much, guys, for watching the video. I hope it helped. If you have any more queries, suggestions, or anything you want to know, do let me know. Please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you.